Boogeyman Ben coming round the bend. Is Boogeyman Ben? Is Boogeyman Ben?
Greetings, my fellow Fright fans, and thanks so much for dropping by the Horror Zone channel. I hope everyone's doing well. Today's video is not something I really had planned. It was something that just dawned on me as I was getting ready for work. That we are coming up on the 20th anniversary of a very special film from a very special horror franchise. One that is supposedly has a new installment that's been in the works for a while. The last time we got a sequel to this series was back in 2011, and if you want to go back and watch a really cringe-worthy video, I did a breakdown of this series over the course of 2 videos back on January 9th of 2012. The franchise I'm talking about is Final Destination. Now, I have all of the Final Destination films. I don't have them on Blu-ray, but I have all of the DVDs. The franchise kicked off in March 17th of 2000 with the original Final Destination film from New Line Cinema. This was taking horror in a different direction. Instead of something physical, death was the actual antagonist in this, and this dealt with a flight to Paris, a graduating class going to Paris, and the Alex Browning, the Devon Sawa character, having a vision and seeing that the plane is going to explode. He and several others make it off the plane before his premonition becomes true, and then the rest of the film is them trying to beat death, who is trying to make up for the fact that they cheated it by getting off the plane. It's a terrific film, and I remember the night I went and saw it. I believe it was that first weekend, March 18th of 2000. My girlfriend and I at the time, I still remember we were in Union City. We went to a different theater than we were used to. It was the first time I had been to the Union City theater, and I remember we ate at Chili's first. We were having an argument. I think we were arguing at the time too. I remember it was really shortly before our breakup. But I just remember we weren't really getting along. We went and saw this film. I remember it was completely sold out, and the ushers came in to tell everybody it was sold out, completely sold out. And they were going to be making sure that nobody was sneaking in. And as I just remember, not being really sure what this film was going to be like. I was familiar with, of course, Sean William Scott from American Pie, and I knew Devon Sawa from Idle Hands, and of course I knew Tony Todd from Candyman, which I was a huge fan of. But outside of that, I didn't really know anybody else in this cast. And wow, was this a ride! I still remember just how terrifying it was. I was a young guy at the time. I was 25 when this movie came out, and I was just about to graduate from college in a couple months. So, the idea of death and, being a young person and seeing what befalls these people that get off the plane, almost what happens to them is worse than the people that remained on the plane. It was terrifying. It was kind of a new type of horror that really got to my core. It really scared me and excited me at the same time. And I remember going to see this film again with a bunch of coworkers. And it was a blast because I knew where all of the shocks were coming from. It was so much fun seeing it twice in the movie theater, especially seeing it that second time and really appreciating how fantastic this movie was. And 3 years later, we would get the sequel, directed by the late, great David Ellis. But Final Destination 2, I remember my wife and we were engaged at the time. We went and saw this, and if memory serves me, we didn't see this opening day. My wife worked for a 24-hour call service at the time, which dealt with dispatching ambulances and also people that get locked out of their apartments. So it was like a wide variety of things that she dealt with regards to landlords, apartment complexes, doctors, things like that, ambulance dispatch. And I think she was working the night that this opened, because I remember we went on a Monday. We went on a Monday to see this. So it was the following weekend. It was after the weekend it opened. And I remember there wasn't a lot of people in the audience. So we sat kind of close to the front. But I remember my wife sort of stretching out and putting her head on my shoulder as we watched the film. So she lifted up the armrest and stretched out her legs because there was no one else sitting next to us. And the opening of this film, if people know what I'm talking about, the car accident scene, she jumped out of her chair that she was sitting on. It really blew both of us away. Just that opening scene, we were both just transfixed and shocked at what we were seeing, and it scared and excited us. And I still stand by the fact that this is the greatest film in the Final Destination franchise. I love the original, but this one for me has always been my favorite, and I think it has to do with this kick-ass opening. And because we are celebrating, I'm recording this on the 20th of January, but this will not be published until the 31st, the actual 20th anniversary of this film, which shocks me. I just thought it'd be fun to sort of go into the history of this film, talk about what went into making it, and talking about its impact on movie-going audiences. After the financial success of Final Destination, New Line contracted Jeffrey Reddick regarding plans for a sequel. Since the original film's crew was unavailable, New Line replaced most of the production team, and filming took place in Vancouver and Okanagan Lake. Final Destination 2 was released on January 31st of 2003 and on DVD on July 22nd of 2003. The film received mostly negative reviews from critics. Negative reviews assessed the film as a silly and illogical work that begins with the same flawed premise of its predecessor, while positive reviews called the film a real jolter for horror fans that recognized the close relationships between fright and laughter, and surprisingly good fun for the current crop of horror films. The film grossed $46 million domestically and $43 million overseas, earning $90 million internationally, making it the lowest grossing film in the Final Destination franchise. Kimberly has a premonition of an accident killing multiple people, including her and her friends. She blocks the cars behind her on the ramp, and as a police trooper arrives, the accident happens. Death is stalking this group of survivors. Movie starred A.J. Cook as Kimberly Corman, Ali Larter as Clear Rivers, Tony Todd as Mr. Bloodworth, Michael Landis as Thomas Burke. Based on a story by Jeffrey Reddick, screenwriting duties were J. McKee Gruber and Eric Bress, and the movie was directed by David R. Ellis. So originally, Devon Sawa was to reprise his role as Alex Browning in the film, but a dispute concerning his contract with New Line Cinema could not be settled. In this film, a newspaper clipping reveals that his character, Alex, was killed off by a falling brick to the head. Clear Rivers also mentions this to Kimberly in the asylum visit, although omitting the details. When Evan is in the kitchen before his death, he leans over to get something out of the fridge, and the letter magnets Hey E on the side of the fridge are shown. When Evan puts the leftover Chinese food container on the counter, the H magnet falls off and lands in the container. The letters left spell out the word I, which foreshadows that Evan will die when he is impaled through the eye with a fire escape ladder. Nora's death is actually based on a real-life incident. Dr. Hitoshi Nikadio, a surgical resident at a Houston hospital, was decapitated by a malfunctioning elevator in 2002. The doctor's shoulders were pinned by the doors, which then allowed the ceiling to slice off his head as the elevator continued to move upwards. This disaster has the exception of being the only one in the series which the death order was reversed, since death did it to start its list anew due to a remaining survivor of Flight 180 still being alive. So yeah, I can't believe it's been 20 years since this film came out. So watching that first Final Destination, I just remember I was terrified by it, but sort of relieved that I'm not going to get on a plane anytime soon. With this one, we all drive places. We've all seen, collisions, or we've seen near collisions. But this car crash, the car crash that starts this film off, is one of the greatest action set pieces I've ever seen. And I still think it is so well done. And just the way it builds, it's just this chain reaction of how one thing with the logs affects something else, and then how that affects something else, and it just builds upon builds upon builds, and then it crescendos in the vision ending. Why it's my favorite, I think, is because of that opening. Yes, I think I had more of a connection to the Alex Browning character in the original. I think he was a better protagonist than Kimberly is in this one, but again, this one I feel is much more of an ensemble than the original one, because everybody affected by the accident, they all kind of sort of band together to try to figure out Death's design in this one. Clear is kind of brought in as a way to sort of guide these new victims of Death's design into what they can expect and why things are happening the way they are. I think the hook for me, and why this one has stood the test of time, and why this one is still the one I go to when I want to watch one of these films, is that opening. There are also some other great set pieces in the film, but like I said, it hooked me. It's like the best example I can give is the movie Cliffhanger. That opening to Cliffhanger is what hooks you. And what invests you into the story. And I was invested into all of these characters, whereas in the original Final Destination, I was mostly invested in Alex, because I put myself in his shoes. Like, what would you do if you had this premonition and you tried to save people, and then everybody looked at you as the reason why these things were happening? In this one, I really connected with this group of characters, and I think they're the strongest group of characters within the entire franchise.
franchise.
Rest in peace to David R. Ellis. I think he did a terrific job directing this film, and the special effects and everything. The fact that that road, that crash, I still think about that. In fact, like shortly after this film came out, about 3 years after this film came out, my wife and I had to drive to Washington State from where we live in California. It was like literally we drove all day. We left at like 5 in the morning. We didn't get there till 9 o'clock at night, and it was in March. So it was really a stormy winter, lots of rain, and in some places snow. And I remember every time when we were just getting closer and closer to Washington, we kept passing log trucks that looked a lot like the one that starts the accident in this film. And every time we would pass by it, my heart would sort of pound a little bit harder, going, holy shit. And I know that they did special effects for this, but it still left an impression on me. This movie just impacted me. It was amazing seeing it in the movie theater on a big screen, and it will remain one of my favorite horror films of all time. I think it's one of the best sequels of all time, and it is my favorite of the Final Destination franchise. So happy anniversary, happy 20 years to Final Destination 2. Let me know if you guys are a fan of this film or the Final Destination franchise. If you guys want to watch something really, really painful, I will put links down below to my two breakdowns of the franchise that I did back in 2012. I had to put them into 2 videos because I didn't know what I was doing. So there are 2 videos down below in the comments if you want to watch some of my early stuff. And it's funny because I shot them in the same room, and you will see a very different room behind me in that video. So it was fun going back and watching that. But thanks so much everyone for watching this. Like I said, I just wanted to do something fun for the 20th anniversary of this film. I hope everyone's doing well, and stay tuned for some more great horror content coming very, very soon. Take it easy. Stay scared as always. Peace.
I'll see you soon.
Hey fellow Fright Fiends, just want to say thank you again for supporting BoogeymanBen's Horror Zone. If you're brand new to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification so you're updated every time I drop a new video. I typically do this once or twice a week with new content. I've been doing this for over 11 years, and the horror genre is a passion of mine, and it really means a lot to me that I can share that passion with all of you guys. Thanks so much again for the support, and I'll talk to you again later. Take it easy, stay scared as always.